So, as you all know, Israel has been enforcing a very violent and racist policies towards Palestinian people there, and as a result, some of the Palestinians have radicalized and went into the terrorist organizations like Hamas. And on October 7th, Hamas conducted a terrorist attack on Israeli civilians, which is completely unacceptable, even if you consider the fact that Israel has been acting very racist and violently towards Palestinians. That is not an excuse to just go on the streets and murder innocent civilians, even if they are Israelis. Normal Israelis shouldn't take responsibilities for the racist policies taken by the Israeli government. You should look at governments and the civilians as different things, completely two different things. But in response to this horrendous terrorist attack by Hamas, if Israel conducts a military actions against the individuals that were involved in these terrorist attacks, I understand that, but that is not what the Israeli government is doing right now. Israel has been since October 7th. Israel has been conducting a horrendous genocide campaign against the people of Gaza, and most of them don't even have anything to do with Hamas. So what they're not doing this to combat Hamas. It is clear that they're doing this to ethnically cleanse Palestinians from the region of Gaza. And if you look at the numbers, from October 7th to December 15th, according to Al Jazeera, 18,787 people have been killed by the IDF in the region of Gaza, and the vast majority of them are civilians, and out of them 7,729 are children. So it is clear that if you call Hamas terrorists, which I just did in the beginning of this video, you have to call Israel a terrorist state, because even if you go with Israel's numbers, about 50 to 70% of the casualties caused by Hamas terrorist attacks are civilians, which is a very large number, and that's why I call them terrorists. But the casualties caused by the IDF Israeli government is much worse than Hamas. Like over 80% or 90% of the casualties caused by Israel in Gaza are innocent civilians. So if you call Hamas terrorists, which I do, then you have to call Israel a apartheid state that supports this horrendous genocide. It is clear that Israel is a terrorist nation, and it is just outrageous that that the American government is supporting them. And going back to the numbers, over 50,000 people have been injured as a result of this Israeli genocide campaign from October 7th till and it's still ongoing now. And if you look at where these casualties happen, many of them happen in like facilities like hospitals or schools, which is not like a military facility for Hamas or anything. They're just a normal facilities that people need to live a happy and healthy life. So, and if you look at the numbers, according to Al Jazeera again, 339 educational facilities have been damaged in Gaza. There are 35 hospitals in Gaza, and out of them, 26 of them are not functioning because of this horrendous Israeli genocide campaign against the people of Gaza. And as you can see, many of the other facilities that have nothing to do with Hamas are being bombed and damaged as a result of this Israeli apartheid policy. And in addition to that, right now, people in Gaza don't even have access to phones or the internet. Most of them don't, at least, so they can't like communicate with the outer world properly. And in the region of Gaza, there are about 2.3 million people living there, and about half of them are children. And right now, about half of the population in Gaza are starving right now. And even if they are not in like the conditions which you can call starving, over 90% of them don't have enough food. They don't know if they can get the next meal properly. So it is clear that the Israeli government is not doing this to combat Hamas or just protect Israeli civilians from these terrorist attacks. Which, if they are just doing that, I support that, but they're not doing that. What they're doing is also a terrorist attack on the innocent civilians. In fact, they're doing it in which worse ways than Hamas, because if you look at the numbers, as I told you earlier, percentage of civilians killed by Hamas is smaller than the percentage of civilians killed by the IDF or the Israeli government. So it is clear that Israel is just committing a full-on genocide against innocent civilians. And a few days ago, in the United Nations, there was a vote on the resolution on humanitarian pause in regards to this Israel-Palestine conflict, and 153 nations voted for this resolution, but 10 of the countries voted against this, and those countries include obviously Israel, and the United States and few of the those like smaller countries that need like American support to function as a country. So that's why they are doing anything that Americans tell you to. So first of all, Israel shouldn't be conducting a genocide against these innocent civilians just because they're living in the region of Gaza. That's a very common sense thing. They should stop genocide. That's not an outrageous thing to say. And second of all, the United States, who like often poses themselves as like fighter for freedom or just equality, they shouldn't support these ethnic cleansing by this Israeli government, which is a completely racist, bigoted, violent government that doesn't care at all about the Palestinian lives. So hypocrisy of Biden administration. Like Biden says things like we need to support Ukraine in order to just like create a like free world with democracies, but at the same time, he's supporting this Israeli government who is just full on committing a genocide against certain people. So it is clear that Biden doesn't have core principles. He just going on with this American imperialism. And going back to the stories about United Nations, so how United Nations works is like there's this assembly where like all of the countries assemble and sometimes they vote on stuff, just like I just told you. But there's a thing called Security Council, and even the resolutions that go in General Assembly, they have meanings too. Like it's not meaningless to vote that way, but in order to like vote for a more meaningful resolution that are more likely to lead to actual change, things like that needs to happen in Security Council. It's more powerful there, and there are 15 countries in the Security Council, and few days or weeks ago, I think, they voted for this humanitarian pause resolution. That the content of it is basically very similar to what the General Assembly voted on. The Security Council voted on that as well, and out of 15 countries in the Security Council, 13 of them agreed with it, but the United States voted against this, and the United Kingdom abstained. And how this Security Council works is there are 5 permanent members of the Security Council. It's the United States, Russia, China, France, and the United Kingdom, I think. And if any like one of the 5 countries votes against this, they can just like veto this resolution. So this resolution was not implemented because although many of 13 of the 15 countries in the Security Council voted for it, one of the permanent members, the United States, voted against this. So the United States is just full on preventing this humanitarian pause from happening. So the United States is completely complicit in this horrendous genocide campaign against the innocent civilians in Gaza. So the United States should be ashamed of themselves. I'm an American citizen as well, so I am very ashamed to be the citizen of the a country that has the government that supports genocide. And as a result of this horrendous genocide against the people of Gaza and the United States supporting them, so American people are not stupid. So they don't want their tax dollars going into just supporting a genocide against the innocent civilians. Obviously, I don't want that as well. The polls overwhelmingly show that, and the support for Biden administration is dropping rapidly because of this. And as a result, if you look at like the polls doing like matchups between Biden and Trump, right now Trump is like beating Biden overwhelmingly. But to be clear, like Trump is horrendous on the Israel-Palestine issue as well. In fact, he's even worse than Biden. Like the Democrats try to pose themselves as like this fighter for freedom and equality. And to be fair, they are doing that in some extent in the United States. But if you look at foreign policies that Democrats have implemented, like they are doing in Israel, it is clear that most of the establishment Democrats or centrist Democrats, they don't support these core principles at all. They only support it when it goes along with the American imperialism's interests. So this Democrats' hypocrisy, I can't stand this like hypocrisy at all. And but the Republicans, they are like they don't even try to hide it. They like full on say that like all Palestinians are terrorists, so like Israel should be even more combative in the genocide against them. So like they are complete lunatics that doesn't care about human rights at all. They're just a violent racist that is very harmful to the society. If you look at the polls, vast majority of Democrats, Independents, and Republicans support the ceasefire in this Israel-Palestine conflict. So obviously, like even if you're a Republican, most of the normal people don't want like their tax dollars going into genocide against the innocent civilians. So this is an obvious common sense poll numbers. So it is the American politicians that are very outrageous because none of the Republican politicians support the ceasefire in the Israel-Palestine conflict, and only the very minority of Democrats support this ceasefire too. So as I said, the Biden's poll numbers are dropping rapidly. So Joe Biden, he of course wants to win the presidential election next time as well. That's why he's saying things like Israel should be like focused on protecting the innocent civilians' lives. He's not telling Israel to stop these attacks on Hamas. He just wants it to be more careful. He says something like that, but it's this is like very mild way to say it. And like if you really want to stop, like sincerely want to stop this horrendous genocide campaign by the Israeli government against the people of Gaza, you can just stop like funding them like militarily. The American weapons are literally going into Israel to just kill Palestinians. So actions show their like true opinions, not just the words. Even if you say something, if you are doing something that contradicts with your words, like your actions or what you truly believe. So it is clear that Biden's just like what Biden truly believes is that that she has no problem with Israel killing the innocent civilians in Gaza. And Biden also said like Israel has an intent in like stopping this like innocent civilians from dying, which is completely not true. If you look at the numbers, as I've been saying over and over again throughout this video, over 80 or 90% of the casualties caused by the IDF is civilians. So like if you can't look at that and just think that they are actually trying to combat Hamas. Like that's not what they're doing. If they are, like their military strategy is very bad, and it is clear that Israel can like combat Hamas in somewhat more efficient way if they want to, but they don't want to do that, and they just want to ethnically cleanse all Palestinians from Gaza. So that's clearly what they're doing. And also Biden said something like Israel is starting to lose the support from the international community. Like starting, like are you serious? Protests have been erupting throughout the United States and throughout the world against this horrendous Israeli genocide campaign against the people of Gaza for like it's been over 2 months since this horrendous terrorist attack by the Hamas, and Israel just full on committing genocide as a response to that. And many people around the world are like showing up in the streets and just calling for the Biden administration and Netanyahu to stop this genocide. And even in social media, there are many people that are just calling for the ceasefire and this stop to this horrendous genocide, just like I'm doing right now. So it's not starting. Like 153 countries voted for this call for the humanitarian pause, as I told you earlier. So I don't know, like maybe Biden's like surrounded by these warmongers that just support Israeli genocide, which he probably is. That's maybe why he doesn't like have common sense to understand that Israel has not been supported by the international community at all. But it is clear that Israel is not being supported by the international community. So what I'm trying to say is like Biden is trying to pose himself as like he's not like full on supporting what Israel is doing, but if you look at what he's saying, like he tries to like show like he's like sad that Palestinians are dying, like innocent Palestinians in Gaza are dying, but he doesn't like criticize Israel in explicit ways. He just like tries to like pose himself as a good person that doesn't want innocent civilians to die, even though he literally like supports that. His actions show that. And the reason why he's probably doing that is because, as I said earlier, like Biden's poll numbers are very like dropping rapidly right now. So like he's thinking like he needs to show some remorse for the Palestinians being killed right now, but he doesn't have the guts to just stand up to the American imperialism and just say that ceasefire now and stop the like military support for Israel. He's not doing that, so it's clear that he doesn't really believe that Israel should stop doing that. And in fact, Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, said Biden administration fully supported the Israeli military actions against Gaza, and he said that Biden stopped this international pressure to bring ceasefire. So he thanked Biden for that. So like Biden tries to pose himself as like good person that doesn't like support like everything that Israel does. He wants no civilians to die. But it's like Netanyahu himself said that Biden supports it. So like yeah, that it's clear that Biden doesn't really believe that. Even Netanyahu himself said that Biden fully supports that, and I think at least his perception of the reality that Biden supports it is true. And so as I've been saying, like Biden and these established Democrats like Hillary or even like sometimes Obama, they try to pose themselves as like this fighter for freedom, and they want equality and everyone should have the same human rights. Yes, but that's the logic they use to like support like countries like Ukraine, which I do as well. Ukraine should be fighting at their on defensive wars. What Russia's doing to them is horrendous. It's a complete violation of the international law. The Ukrainian people have every right to defend themselves, but at the same time, these established Democrats are just like full on supporting this genocide against the certain people if it goes along with the American imperialism's interests. So it's clear that they're just not like believing in these like core principles like human rights or peace or democracy. They pretend to do it just to like whitewash their American imperialism and like pose themselves as a good person. And what Republicans are doing is just they're just being racist and just full on genocidal and racist towards the certain people. They don't even try to hide that they're just they're just imperialists that want more wars happening around the world, and so they're very bad. So in order to just stop this full on this like horrendous horrible reality from continuing and just stop this genocide and bring ceasefire, we need to implement a more progressive pro-ceasefire, pro-peace president into the White House. We shouldn't let Joe Biden have the second term. It's clear that he's not doing anything to stop these horrendous wars. And in order to do that, we can't let Joe Biden or Trump win. So in order to do that, we need to beat Joe Biden in the Democratic primaries, which I know it's very, very hard to do, but we can't just like give up, because if we give up, this horrendous genocide is gonna be continuing and we'll be complicit for that. So we have to just keep fighting and try to defeat Biden and bringing a more progressive candidate for president in 2024. And so right now the Republican primaries, they're being very much covered in the media like CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. They like cover like 24/7 about the like Nikki Haley attacking Vivek Ramaswamy going after Chris Christie or something like that. Like they cover these like completely irrelevant, stupid news that Republicans are infighting. But on the Democratic side, they don't like cover it at all. Like Fox News, sometimes they cover it just to like divide Democrats and like just use some of the candidates running for the president against Biden to attack Biden. But like MSNBC, CNN, ABC, like those like liberal like medias, they don't cover it at all. But in fact, there are some people running against Biden. They include like Dean Phillips or Marianne Williamson. But Dean Phillips, he's like a more centrist Democrat. I don't know what his position on ceasefire or Israel-Palestine conflict is, but I'm sure he's not like pro ceasefire at all. His numbers are not that great as well. But Marianne Williamson, she's a very progressive candidate. She supports the ceasefire in Israel-Palestine conflict. She supports other progressive policies like Medicare for all, Green New Deal, free college, living wage, legalizing marijuana. So I completely support her, and I want her to be to beat Biden and be the candidate against Trump. And the polls show that like Biden's polling at like 50 or 60 or 70%, but Marianne Williamson, she's polling at like 10%, which is to be clear, it's very low in this late stage in prior to this 2024 election. We are like 2 months away from Iowa caucus, and if we want Marianne to win, we should do everything we can and grow her support. But 10%, that's about the same numbers as Nikki Haley in the Republican side. Nikki Haley has 10% and Trump has like 50, 60, or even 70%, I think, in the Republican primary polls. And but even though Nikki Haley is taken as a serious candidate by these mainstream medias, they act as if like Nikki Haley has a shot at like winning this Republican primaries. No, it's clear that Trump is gonna win. The Republicans have gone full MAGA, and it's clear that polls numbers clearly show that. But on the Democratic side, the mainstream media try to pretend that the primaries don't even exist, even though they do. There are candidates running against Biden, and Marianne Williamson is polling at 10%, about the same as Nikki Haley against Biden. So, like mainstream medias like MSNBC or CNN, these liberal medias, like they try to pose themselves as like a fighter for freedom, and their like narrative is like we need to defeat Trump and just like go on with Joe Biden. But and they don't even like mention the fact that there are primaries. So weird how that works, right? Like they say that democracy is important and we need to beat Trump, which I also think we do need to beat Trump. He's an election denier that doesn't care about democracy, and he's just gonna be more authoritarian in 2024 if he's elected than he was 4 years ago. So we need to stop him from going into the White House. But in order to save democracy, we need to suppress democracy within Democratic Party and just go on with Joe Biden. That's how it works. Like, are you being serious? No, that's not how it works. We should have democracy within Democratic primaries. And if Biden wins as a result of that, then yeah, like I completely like fall and disagree with what Biden's doing in Israel. But yeah, I might vote for him. In fact, he's as a lesser of two evils. But if you're not even like trying to acknowledge that there are primaries, like that's not democracy at all. And many of the progressives like me are just gonna be more critical of Biden and might not vote for Biden if that's what you guys are doing. So like this hypocrisy by media, these liberal medias, like they try to pose themselves as not just medias, to be fair, like some just people on social media, like these liberals, they try to pose themselves as like fighter for democracy, but in order to do that, they're supporting democracy and supporting a candidate that just supports this genocide against the innocent civilians in Gaza. So this is their hypocrisy is just beyond disturbing, and I can't take this hypocrisy. Like if you're just gonna support genocide, just say it. Like be a Republican, or if that's what you do, like it's clear that like your colors are clear. So I don't even have to like do segments like this and like unmask you. But if you're gonna be like pretend that you're like pro human rights or pro democracy, then like have at it. Like be pro democracy or pro peace or pro human rights. Like if you're gonna say it, like genuinely believe it. Like you don't say anything that you don't believe. So if you only support it in context of like if it only goes along with the context of American imperialism, then just say it. Like, don't pretend like you support human rights at any circumstances. And and another thing, or I think the last point I want to say is that like many of the like voices calling for ceasefire or critical of Israel, like I was thinking right now, like even if like people, if like right wingers or pro Israel people look at my segment right now, they're gonna just be like, "Oh, you're anti-Semitic!" Like, no, you're being anti-Semitic. But no, that's not what they're doing. If you're just gonna call my segment, which I'm sure many of the American people agree with, in at least in terms of like their support for ceasefire, like the polls overwhelmingly show that American people, Democrats, independents, and Republicans, they support ceasefire. If you say that it just calls for the ceasefire and the criticism against the Israeli government is anti-Semitic, they're gonna be anti-Semitic too. Like that's not how this works. Like Israel government is a different concept from like the Jewish people in general. But in fact, to be clear, like there are some people that use like criticism against Israel to like justify anti-Semitism. Like people like Nick Fuentes, he's a conspiracy theorist, racist conspiracy theorist that denies Holocaust and just goes full on anti-Semitic. So I don't support that. But like the hypocrisy there is that like Trump, he met with Nick Fuentes a while ago. He had dinner with him or something. But like, the right wingers, they most of them don't even criticize Trump for meeting with Nick Fuentes or anything. So they have their own hypocrisy too. So but what I'm trying to say is that like this criticism against Israeli government, that common sense is not anti-Semitic at all. The fact that overwhelming percentage of the American people support that, it shows that it's common sense. It's not like a radical leftist agenda or like anti-Semitic far right conspiracy or anything like that. It's just a common sense position in general. Obviously, there are some Jewish Americans that support the ceasefire and criticize Israeli government too. Being Jewish doesn't mean that you full on have to like support this horrendous genocide against the Palestinians in the region of Gaza. That's not what Jewish religion is about. So that's obvious. And there are some Jewish American organizations that do activism to support ceasefire, and one of them is Jewish Voice for Peace, and they have been doing protests and demonstrations throughout the country since the beginning of this horrendous Israeli genocide against Palestinians. In fact, the organization has existed for quite a while, so I'm sure they've done like demonstrations before that as well. But their protests have been more prominent after October 7th. And a few weeks ago, they went into the Capitol in Washington D.C. and they were calling for ceasefire. So I think I'm gonna end this clip with playing these Jewish Americans calling for the ceasefire in the Capitol in Washington D.C. That's all for now. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.